Starving your distractions to feed your focus means being intentional with your time, your energy, and how you move in life. There's a purpose behind it, there's intention behind it. Being able to reassess the direction you're going in your life, reevaluating your actions, allows you to reverse engineer the bigger goals that you have in order to make them obtainable. Today is my birthday. And I remember telling you guys before that I, at one point, really hated my birthday because of certain situations in my life that made me really hate being alive, hate my birthday. And I got to a point where I rewrote those narratives and the emotions that were attached to my day of birth. And now I celebrate that time with intention. For me, my birthday is a time for me to really reevaluate the life goals that I have, the direction that I want to go in, and how I want to show up in my life. And even if you're the kind of person that prioritizes New Year's and that being the start of your new chapters or your new life, you still want to use your birthday as an opportunity to see how far you've come and are you achieving those goals. I've also said that there's certain parts of myself that had to heal from certain things, and you would naturally be the same way if you're human. As we heal those parts of ourselves and they're reintegrated into the whole, we now want to recenter our focus and decide how we want to move forward, what we want to be doing. There were certain things that I felt called to do in order to celebrate myself with intention. And now at this point, I really just wanted to be more relaxed. I wanted to celebrate me for me within my own space without feeling a need to validate my existence outwardly and externally. And part of that process of starving your distractions in order to feed your focus is being able to say, are the actions that I'm taking in alignment with the version of me I desire to be, with the space that I desire to take up in the future? Is that version of me still doing things the way that I do them now? It's not disloyal or dishonoring to past versions of yourself to decide that you're ready to change and to move forward with your life and do things differently, celebrate differently, acknowledge milestones differently. I heard a quote that our brains are pattern-seeking neural networks. And when you think about learning and the process of learning and seeking patterns and seeking connections in life, our brain is naturally wired to do that. It's naturally designed to carry that out. And our bodies are constantly trying to find homeostasis, constantly trying to find normalcy and safety in that. And we do things in our lives in order to bring that about, to feel more safe in our environment. Typically, that's in relation to bigger goals. Typically, that's in relation to changing, massive change and growth in your life. And the way that I like to understand this is that our brain has files of what is normal, files of what is acceptable. And when we go to do something, your brain is saying, I have a file on how you normally do this. I have a file on the way that we speak to these people. I have a file on the way that we allow people to treat us. When you decide to change that, because your brain is wired to seek patterns and change patterns and learn from that, you can change those patterns. You can change that behavior. But it takes intention and discipline and a desire and purpose in order to make that come about. So if your brain doesn't have a file for productivity and discipline and intentionality, it's going to feel strange for you to just decide one day that you're going to be this person who has life goals that you actively and intentionally work towards. You're also going to then seek in your own environment who is doing the same thing and where you can feel safe and comforted in their presence. Oftentimes, if you're doing it right, if you're intentionally moving with purpose in life, especially when you want radical change and you're the first person in your environment to do so, you're going to lose people along the way. This is when we have to trust that where we're going, there is space for us there in order to do the things that we desire in the way that we desire. So the first step to starving your distractions and feeding your focus is to calm your nervous system. It's to calm your body, to feel safe enough to actually take inspired action, to hear the things that you desire and the steps you need to take in a more clear and concise way. So when we talk about being in fight or flight and how in that state our heart races, our blood pressure increases, certain systems in our body shut down to preserve energy because your body is literally saying we have to run. If you think about saving your life, that's a necessary thing, right? But if you're just at the grocery store looking for chicken, that fight or flight activation is not necessary. If you're thinking about changing your life, that fight or flight system is going to distract you more than it's going to help you. And perfectionism and overanalyzing our next steps is one of the fastest ways to get ourselves into an activated fight or flight system. It's going to cause us to endlessly think about options and think we're doing something versus taking action. For example, while I was filming this video, my phone shut down. So a huge chunk of what I was recording was not even being documented. Normally in the past, when I would film, anything like that would cause me to be so overwhelmed that I would just take it as a sign that, maybe I need to do it another time, or I would feel so defeated and I just wouldn't want to do it. When situations come up, when conflicts come up, when friction in our environment, in our bodies come up, when our choices and decisions don't necessarily align with our higher goals, we have the ability to operate from a safe system, which for you could be fight or flight, or from a system that is more regulated. And when we're trying to intentionally bring ourselves out of operating from fast mode, there are certain things that we can do in order to send the message to our brain that we are safe enough to do it differently. Because your brain is constantly sensing what your body is telling it, and your body is constantly sending messages to your brain, it's receiving messages from your environment about whether or not you're safe. This is why, and thinking about how many senses we use in order to interpret our environment, right? Our brain doesn't have eyes. Our brain isn't like, hey, let me take a peek at whether or not your ex or that person who doesn't like you is here today in the office. You see it with your eyes, and then you sense based on what you perceive that information as on whether or not you're safe. If your heart starts racing and you feel like, oh my gosh, what if they say something to me? What if I trip up? What if I make a mistake? What if I do it wrong? All of that is telling your body that it's not safe. It's telling your brain that, oh, we're not safe, so we need to activate other systems in order to keep ourselves safe, in order to bring ourselves back to that homeostasis, in order to bring ourselves back to that feeling of being safe. Now, again, going back, if you don't have files on productivity, on intentionality, on discipline, those things are not going to feel safe in your body. So the moment you start doing them, the moment you start showing up in ways that are opposite to what you know, your brain is going to say, yep, that's not what we normally do. And if you perceive that information as safe and it's okay to do, it'll feel good in your body and be integrated as part of the system that you want to keep going. But if you perceive it as unhelpful or not safe, because when I try to show up and do certain things, XYZ, dressing a certain way, doing my makeup a certain way, going after certain jobs, exercising, eating a certain way, whatever it is, and the feedback that I received from other people didn't align with what I thought would happen, and now I'm embarrassed. And in order to avoid being embarrassed again, I'm just not going to do it. This is your body trying to get you back into safe mode. And if safe mode is don't get any attention, don't do it differently, don't try and be seen doing the thing that you want to do, you will operate accordingly in order to achieve that goal. In certain circles, that's considered self-sabotage. But if that is the language that you're used to and it feels safe, it's you doing the thing that makes you feel comfortable. So we want to rewrite what our body identifies as safe by calming our nervous system in order to regulate our emotions, our physical responses to certain things, so it feels safe to do the things that we normally would not do. And this can apply to anything in your life: relationships, job opportunities, changing your hobbies, making more intentional decisions around your health, or prioritizing your mental health. Prioritizing things that your family doesn't typically talk about or see as normal, and you want to make that part of your everyday life. So one of the things, what we benefit most from a calmer, regulated nervous system is the way that we talk to ourselves. And that positive self-talk also has the ability to help us regulate our nervous system. Because the first thing that your body is doing when you're activated in your fight or flight It's trying to understand if the thing that it's perceiving is unsafe, if it is something we shouldn't be doing. If you have the ability in those moments to still be connected to the front part of your brain, you will make more informed, logical decisions instead of emotional ones. For example, when I was pregnant, if you've ever been pregnant, your hair grows, you're glowing, everything is lovely, and then right afterwards, there's a shedding of your hair. This last pregnancy, I was also going through a lot emotionally and mentally. I was knee deep in my healing journey. And I remember being so frustrated with myself because I knew that my hair tangled so bad and so easily during that postpartum shedding phase that I would just plait it up and then try to just wash it in the braids. And when I was like, oh, I think I'm fine, I took them out and there were so many knots. My heart just sank and I felt so depressed and defeated and deflated. And I almost was like, I'm just gonna cut off all my hair because trying to get those tangles out just felt so impossible and it really pissed me off. And instead of just chopping it, my husband was so lovely and so sweet. He was like, we could just use, this spray, this detangling spray and deep conditioner. And he was so loving and so kind. And I was so mean to myself during that time. I was saying how stupid I was for leaving it so long. I knew that I couldn't do it like that. I knew that I needed to take certain precautions in order to wash it so that it doesn't get tangled. And instead of just emotionally chopping off all my hair, I decided to go on YouTube and see if there were other women, not necessarily in postpartum, but who were just over their hair and they were gonna chop it off. And I came across 2 videos. And one video was a woman who chopped off all her hair, and her method of coping with her trauma was to laugh, which is also mine as well. And so she was laughing hysterically while also borderline about to break down and cry because she's actually doing the thing of cutting her hair. And then the other video I watched, the woman was cutting her hair from that emotional state and she hated herself and she was so mean to herself while she was cutting her hair. And it was so heartbreaking to watch because all of the negative self-talk was active and present in that event of cutting her hair. So she's hacking away with so much anger at herself to the point where she did make her scalp bleed and it was very patchy, and her husband came and he helped her clean up the cut. But there was so much depression in that. And both cases, I don't think either woman was happy with the outcome of cutting their hair. And it was real time seeing them go through the 2 emotions that I was experiencing simultaneously. And instead of acting on that, I decided to just go to sleep and try again in the morning. And if I still felt like I wanted to cut my hair, that's what I was gonna do. That's such a simple, but in the moment, hard to do thing. Because we make decisions from that impulsive anger and we're letting our negative self-talk spiral us into emotions that we don't want. Full-on anxiety, full-on depression, because our nervous system is trying to find out which direction to go in and what will make us feel safe, but we're also stuck and unsure. And then we make decisions that we might later on regret. So the next day I did wake up and I was like, okay, I don't really want to cut my hair still. And I took the time to gently and slowly detangle my hair. And I remember as I was doing it, it felt like I was also detangling the negative thoughts and emotions that I had towards myself. So I did my video on healing mother wounds, and one of the things that was really hard for me during that time was I attached certain behaviors of mine to things that my mother would do to herself when she wasn't intentionally loving herself. When my hair got tangled, I was really unkind to myself because I felt like I had let myself down and done what she had done. And this was at a point where I was also healing those mother wounds. And I've said this to you, where there's different parts of yourself, and that part of myself really hated my mother. And I hated the intentional sabotage that she had done in my life. I hated the way that she dismissed my existence, the way that she competed with me instead of loving me. And so I hated myself for doing something that felt like it was in alignment with her. While I was detangling my hair, I was also detangling the lies that I believed about myself because of her. And I was also detangling the lies that she believed about herself because of her own mother. And I was allowing myself to say that I was not stupid for letting my hair get tangled, and I was not stupid for forgetting the precautions that I needed in order to make this process easier. And when we're trying to regulate our nervous system, part of that process is slowing down our breathing, slowing down our movements, slowing down our thoughts in order to be more intentional about the things that we want and desire and do in our life. So when you're making decisions from that activated space, your brain and your body is literally just trying to do the thing that it was always doing before in the method that it always knew how. It had a file on this. We run away. We don't talk. We don't speak to people. We hide our emotions. We cry in silence. We don't say it out loud because we are stupid, and it is embarrassing to have those feelings and emotions and thoughts. And when you're intentionally calming and regulating your nervous system, part of that exercise is through breathing. Breath work, right? It's one of the methods that I love is the box method. You breathe in for 4 seconds, hold your breath for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds, hold your breath for 4 seconds. And it calms your body and your nervous system so much you almost feel like you're on drugs or something. It feels so relaxed and so free. And you're de-stressing your body and your environment, and you're sending messages to your brain and to your body that it is safe in this moment to be in your body. It is safe to make the decisions that you desire from a calm, regulated state. When you're in fight or flight and it is not safe to think, to feel, to talk, to express, one of the ways that we're trying to calm our nervous system is to allow ourselves to feel what we feel. Whether that is sadness, anger, emotions that are typically taboo in society. Crying is a method of expressing your emotions, but also releasing them. And if crying was not safe in your family, if crying was not safe in your environment, allowing yourself to cry in this moment can feel very strange. This is also why we think that men who cry are weak, or we think of them as less because they cry. And then we also simultaneously want emotionally available men. But how do we give space for them to feel that, to be that, if that is not synonymous with manliness and manhood? And likewise, if a strong woman is not allowed to cry and express her emotions, to lose her temper at certain points, how can she be regulated? How can she be at the emotional core of her family if she's not allowed to even express those emotions? And there are different ways of doing this. There's so many methods. So you would have to find ones that feel safe for you, but practicing saying your emotions out loud, practicing actually releasing them and not holding on to them is a beautiful way of reminding yourself that it is safe to be in your body and to have those emotions. You can do this by simple ways of watching a movie that makes you cry and letting yourself cry. This could be when you're talking to someone where you feel safe and you want to cry, instead of holding them in and feeling stupid about them, allowing yourself to cry in front of that person and not keep saying to yourself, they think I'm done because I'm crying. They could think I'm stupid because people like me aren't supposed to cry. We're supposed to hold it in. That is not helpful. While you're in the middle of crying and having an emotional breakdown, you want to be saying to yourself, and it is safe to feel like this. It is okay to feel like this. One of the things I had to heal for myself was saying things out loud. My words literally got so choked up in my throat, I had trouble saying them out loud. I could hear the whole sentences in my brain. And I was just like, just say it out loud. And say it out loud. And the person I'm talking to was my husband, and he was holding space for me, and I could not say it out loud. It didn't feel safe. Because if you've been in situations where your emotions are used against you, the moment you feel something, people use, and I'm talking about toxic, narcissistic people. I'm talking about for real, not the cute narcissist that we see on TV that just likes to look at themselves in the mirror. I'm talking about people who intentionally manipulate and store up things and then use them against you later. That's what I'm talking about. It is not safe in those environments to say what you feel, because that is used against you, especially because in those environments, they are not openly sharing real emotions themselves. So the only person that's vulnerable in their mind, it's a game. So you're emotional and you're showing your emotions and you're showing your cards, and then you lose. So when we get into environments that are safer, the ability to share our emotions in those spaces is necessary to practice the art of communication, the art of emotional release. If you don't feel safe using your words, you could journal. Art therapy is a real thing. Way like tactile things, if you use Play-Doh or modeling clay, stress balls, things that sort of distract your brain and allow you to do something with your hands so that your body feels safe and then you can feel the emotions. Even saying them to yourself is the first step to saying them out loud. Activities that get you out into nature are a way of calming your body. It's a way of telling you that it's safe to take the time to have a 20-minute walk. It's safe to take the time to step outside, to smell fresh air, to listen to the birds and the leaves rustling and the wind moving, instead of saying, where do I have to go? What should I be doing right now? When I was working full time, when I came home at the end of the day, I used to feel like I didn't have any time when I got back. I just crashed out. I felt tired. I didn't want to do anything. When I started to be more intentional with making the back half of my day mine and baking with my kids or watching a program with my husband or going out and feeding our animals, the way that I allowed myself to relax in those moments, to shed the day, I mentally thought about letting go of what happened in the day. This is also why people love taking showers and thinking of it as a cleansing method to literally calm their body enough to release the things that happened in the day. So you could be just more intentional about what your evenings looks like, even if the beginning of your day or a chunk of your day is not your own. Really owning that back half of your day or your time off and saying that I am intentionally connecting with myself. It is safe for me to want to see what I want from this season of my life. That's a way of connecting back with your emotions and regulating your nervous system. Also, group activities. If you're someone who feels unsafe in talking to people, but being around them would make you feel better, you could do like a group dance class or physical activity class, like Zumba or anything. Literally something that got you around other people, but not necessarily where you have to talk to other people. Finding ways of making that fun, but still with the intention and purpose of helping your body feel safe is a good way of connecting with your own hobbies, like discovering new hobbies, because we're telling our body that it's safe enough in those moments to do something differently, to be in a different environment, to ask questions, to be curious about whether or not you would like that thing, to change the files that we have stored in our brain so that our brain is seeking out different patterns. And then what is considered normal changes for us. The next step to starving your distractions and feeding your focus is to reverse engineer your bigger goals. You want to literally say, what's the smaller daily, weekly, monthly goals, actions, habits that are bringing me to that bigger goal, that's bringing me to that fulfillment of that inner purpose or inner calling. You also want to then set milestones, but you don't want to necessarily have hard dates attached to that. You want to be more flexible. So let's say that you have a goal and then there's a milestone. If you hit this milestone, you'll know that you're halfway to your goal. But let's say you set that for like a month out. In a month, I'm going to see where I am. You want it to be, I'm reassessing if the actions that I've been taking are going to lead me to that goal, or do I need to tweak them a little bit in order to get me there? The intention of the milestone is not to shame us for not being on the path or how long we're taking or what we're doing or why we're detouring. It's just to reassess if we're going in the direction we want to and does it make sense to continue in the way that we are. My next tip is to leave room for God. If you are someone who believes in God, the universe, whatever it is that you believe in, whatever it is that you call it, you want to leave space for that higher power to intervene. So the way that I like to think of it is that there is my human self and there is my spiritual self, that spiritual body that is connected to something much higher than my human self. My human self is very limited to the experiences that she has had in this physical realm. So my parents, my life experiences, what I grew up with, what knowledge I've had access to, the experiences that I've had access to. So my ability to construct what is possible for me is going to be based on that narrow view of what I have experienced in this physical realm versus my spiritual body, which is connected. For me, it is God. It could be something completely different for you. There is more available to that version of myself. So you can think of it as your higher self, your aligned self, your most ideal self. When we allow that version of ourselves to guide us so that we can take intentional, inspired action, I like to think of this like a freeway. If you're driving to a destination and you're taking a familiar freeway, a familiar road, and you know the exit that you need to take, you have already envisioned the steps, the length of time, what you need to do in order to arrive there. Now, you may not even be considering other optional routes. You might miss the signs that say there's construction ahead, there's an accident ahead, there are police cars. The evidence of the fact that your path is going to be detoured, you're completely ignoring because you have your plan and your path in mind, and there's nothing that's going to stop you from getting there. So you haven't thought about the fact that if you had gotten off at this exit, you know the side streets that you need to take in order to get to your destination on time or at the same amount of time. So you're continuing on. And then there's a point where you can no longer carry forward because there's construction or an accident or something that's detoured you. So now you have to take an exit that you weren't planning to take, and it's longer because instead of just getting there fast, you have to stop and enter the address into your GPS. You have to wait for them to tell you what direction you need to take because instead of paying attention to the signs, you got off at an exit you're not aware of, you're not familiar with. The same works for our life. When we're trying to literally push and contort ourselves and our plans into place without consulting or considering that we may not have all the answers, that there is something bigger than ourselves that has the answers, whatever that looks like for you, right? That could look like so many different things, and I don't want to put you in a box, but you will know. For me, that is God. One of my favorite quotes is that if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans, right? Because you think you know. You think you know what it's supposed to look like, how it's supposed to be, and you plan. You get in your car, you know where you're going. You don't even look at the GPS. You don't even put it in. You're not even paying attention to whether or not there's traffic or an accident or anything that's going to stop you because you know the exit. You know how to go to school, what you're going to study. You know the job you want. You know the man that you want. You know the hobbies that you like. You've planned out your life from 14 up until like 30 because you just know it's going to be smooth sailing from here. And then when it doesn't happen that way, because we're so glued to the steering wheel and we think that it was just us and the way that I planned it, it should have worked. We can feel depressed, lost, confused, angry, shame, because the plan that we had for our life didn't work out the way that it was supposed to. And yet life is not guaranteed to go the way that we desire. And yet for some reason we're teaching kids or ourselves at certain points that that's exactly what happens. That's exactly how it can go. And I'm not saying that it can't. I'm not saying that there aren't so many ways that you can be more in control or have more agency or autonomy over the things that you desire. You absolutely can. But you also want to be more flexible. It's like what we talked about with that planning and the steps in reverse engineering. You want room for flexibility. You want room for curiosity. Curiosity is literally you saying, I wonder what I should be doing. I wonder if the plan that I have is not actually in alignment with the way that I'm supposed to be going. This video idea is literally stemmed from the fact that I woke up today. I'm excited about my birthday, but I'm also feeling like I just want to do it differently today. And I don't know why. I wonder what that is. Taking the time to pause and wait for the answer instead of giving yourself the answer leaves room for miracles to happen. Leaves room for magic, things that are outside of the realms of our ability, our human self, to grasp and understand. Which brings me to my next point. When we talk about starving our distractions and re-engaging our focus, one of the things that is necessary on that journey is to disappear and grow. Now, this doesn't mean you need to cut everybody off and delete your social media or unfollow everybody. If that feels aligned with you, then do it. If it doesn't have to be that extreme. It doesn't mean that you literally stop going to family functions or you don't hang out with people or whatever it is. If that doesn't feel aligned with you, right, going back to our point of regulating our nervous system, if that causes you to be in fight or flight, it's not meant for you. It's not aligned for you. However, if you don't have a file on that, you might need to lovingly, carefully, gradually bring yourself into a state of feeling safe in doing those things that are a little bit different. But there will be points where you cannot go doing the things that you always did before if they distract you from your bigger goals, especially if you have bigger goals. And bigger goals, again, can be what you want it to be and what it looks like for you. A big goal for me could be a small goal for somebody else. So you want to use your discernment and decide what that looks like for you and how big is that for you? How emotionally connected are you to those goals? When we have outgrown certain environments and situations, it is not recommended that we go through acting lost and confused in situations in which we've already experienced life lessons that have promoted us to new levels of awareness and understanding. Because this is when self-sabotage literally sneaks in and starts to hinder our journey. Because when I'm saying to you, this is for you, it is possible for you, self-sabotage is back there saying, no, she's not talking about you. It's not you that she's addressing. This is for other people. But if you've already experienced the things that helped you elevate to a new level, then I am talking to you. And elevating to a new level is not this massive big thing that we see on social media or in life. It's literally the smallest things. The fact that you could literally be the kind of person that it didn't feel safe for you to walk into work and like smile at people and say hi. And now you're working on your emotions and you're working on feeling safe in these environments and you feel safe saying hello. It feels safe for you to engage with people that previously you felt would judge you and so you didn't want to talk to them. That can be elevating to a new level. It can also be that you have certain milestones or desires in your life and certain friends, certain family members are not ready to grow to those new levels and you have to leave them behind. And instead of doing that, you keep trying to dabble back in environments that literally make you feel stuck or heavy or like you're not aligned. This is when we have to lovingly and kindly remind ourselves that we've been here before. We've driven this road before. Remember, we knew where we were going and then we had to detour through Depression Street and Anxiety Street in order to get back on the freeway to the places that we wanted to go. You cannot act and move according to old timelines when you've been promoted to a manager of that timeline. The same way that if you were promoted to a manager in your job and you were acting like an underling, you would get fired. If you were not the person who was showing up to meetings on time, doing your managerial duties in the way that you are required to based on your contract, you would get fired. I'm not saying you're going to get fired from your own life, but you get what I'm saying. That there are things that we're responsible for. It's the same way in my last video when we were talking about healing mother wounds and you're now a mother. There's going to be certain things, if you desire to do the inner work to change generational patterns, you're going to move accordingly. You're going to have to move accordingly. That doesn't mean we move and we're angry at ourselves. We're still moving with grace and love and kindness at every milestone. And even those milestones have flexibility, but we're saying to ourselves, are we doing the thing? Are we changing the way we're supposed to? Are we talking to ourselves in a kinder way? All of that is going to help us to not be so distracted and be more focused in the things that we desire to do and say we desire to do in our life. When you get promoted, you've already proven yourself as worthy. They already like you for the job. They already feel like you are worthy. Do you believe that you are worthy? Do you feel like those life lessons were enough to prove to yourself that you are strong, you are resilient, you are capable? Or are you still trying to find more proof to say that you are worthy of the love that you have for yourself? My last point is to increase your levels of audacity. Having the audacity to believe that we out here would care enough about your life story to have you tell it. That we care enough about your creative adventures and endeavors and your abilities to see and consume your art, that we care enough about your desires and your life journeys and your milestones and the path that you want to take, the transformation that you're looking to have in your life. Have the audacity to believe that I want to see that, that I am interested in hearing that the people that you haven't met yet, that we would be in the crowd cheering you on, interested in the thing that you think is too small or too insignificant to say out loud. Hire us to energetically nurture your dreams and desires through community and intention. Allow us to be a part of that journey, to navigate that space with you with vulnerability and love and intention and purpose and kindness. Trust yourself to find the people that are meant for you, that desire to see you, to hear you, to understand you, to connect with you, by stepping out boldly in that aligned, purposeful space. There are some of us that are too afraid to look in the mirror and say, I love you, which is why we struggle to receive that when other people tell it to us. We're suspicious of it. We're confused by it because it's not safe currently. We don't have a file for that. And starving your distractions and being intentional with your focus is an opportunity to create those files. It's an opportunity to connect back with intention to our own body and our own desires, and to believe that they are worthy enough to say out loud. And it is important to, at multiple steps along the way, to reevaluate if the path that you are on is one that you desire to be on, to ensure that it is with clarity that we are moving forward.